In July 1518, a woman named Frau Troffea walked into a square in Strasbourg and began to dance. She didn't stop. For 6 days, she danced without music, without rest. Within a month, 400 people had joined her. Dozens died. The authorities didn't ban the dancing. They built a stage. They hired musicians. They brought in professional dancers to join the crowd. The city of Strasbourg officially decided the cure for the dancing plague was more dancing. Nobody called it a mental illness. The physicians examined the dancers and concluded they were suffering from overheated blood. Their prescription: keep dancing until the fever breaks. The good faith medical advice made everything significantly worse. The dancing plague of 1518 is not a legend. Multiple contemporary sources, physician records, city council minutes, religious accounts, confirm it happened exactly as described. It is one of the strangest documented events in recorded history. Strasbourg in 1518 was a city under enormous strain. A multi-year famine had exhausted the poor. An epidemic of syphilis was spreading. A recent plague had killed thousands. The population was terrified, starving, and spiritually desperate. Frau Troffea began dancing in mid-July. She danced in the streets for 4 to 6 days. Her feet blistered and bled. She could not stop. Her husband reportedly tried to restrain her and failed. Within a week, dozens of other people had begun dancing. Within a month, estimates suggest up to 400 people were dancing in the streets of Strasbourg simultaneously. Many danced until they collapsed from exhaustion. The dancers showed every sign of involuntary movement. Their faces were distressed, not joyful. Some reportedly begged to be allowed to stop, but could not. The dancing was not celebration. It appeared to be a form of torment. The city council consulted physicians. The physicians ruled out supernatural causes and diagnosed the problem as hot blood, too much heat in the body causing involuntary motion. Their recommendation was to let the dancers dance it out. Following physician advice, the city cleared space in the guild halls. They hired musicians to play. They brought in professional entertainers and provided food and drink for the dancers. Strasbourg spent public funds to encourage more dancing. More people kept joining. The music made it worse. The crowd made it worse. By August, people were reportedly dying from exhaustion, heart attacks, and strokes. The more the city tried to help, the more people danced. The dancing plague ended as suddenly as it began. In late August, the remaining dancers were taken to a mountain shrine of St. Vitus. The religious ritual, isolation from the crowd, and quiet apparently broke the episode. The dancing stopped. The 1518 event was not unique. In 1374, a massive dancing epidemic swept the Rhine Valley. Aachen, Cologne, and Metz among the affected cities. Thousands of people danced, wept, and collapsed across dozens of towns simultaneously. In 1237, a group of children in Erfurt reportedly danced all the way to the town of Arnstadt, several kilometers, before collapsing. Similar outbreaks appeared sporadically across medieval and early modern Europe for over 2 centuries. These episodes were associated with Saint Vitus, patron of epilepsy and nervous disease. The condition was called Saint Vitus dance. Sufferers were brought to his shrines, where the symptoms consistently resolved. The religious context was part of the cure. 3 competing theories have been proposed to explain what caused the dancing plague. They cannot all be correct. Understanding which one fits tells us something about the limits of medical knowledge under conditions of extreme collective stress. The most popular early theory was ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus that grows on rye grain. When consumed, it causes hallucinations, convulsions, and muscle spasms. Since Strasbourg's poor ate rye bread almost exclusively, ergot seemed plausible. The ergot theory has a critical problem. Ergot poisoning causes muscle paralysis and spastic contractions, not sustained, coordinated rhythmic movement. The documented behavior of the Strasbourg dancers does not match ergot toxicology at any point. The second theory was demonic possession. This was what many sufferers believed themselves. Some clergy argued the dancers were being punished by God. The physicians rejected supernatural causes entirely. Neither group had an effective cure. The third theory, and the current medical and historical consensus, is mass psychogenic illness. Under conditions of extreme stress, a psychosomatic symptom can spread through a community the way a virus does, through social contagion. Mass psychogenic illness is real and well documented in modern medicine. The symptoms are genuine, not faked, but originate in the nervous system rather than a physical pathogen. The mechanism is stress, shared belief, and social feedback. The historian John Waller, in his 2008 study, argued the Strasbourg outbreak was almost certainly mass psychogenic illness. The conditions were perfect: a traumatized population, a religious framework that included cursed, dancing, and intense social contagion in a crowded city. The religious dimension is crucial. The people of Strasbourg genuinely believed in the curse of St. Vitus. They believed their dancing was divine punishment. That shared belief, widely held, deeply felt, may have been precisely what made the epidemic spread and sustain. The physician diagnosis of hot blood was not deliberate negligence. It was the best medical knowledge available in 1518. The prescription, more dancing, music, exercise, was given in complete good faith. Good faith advice made a mass hysteria epidemic dramatically worse. What Strasbourg's authorities did, hiring musicians, clearing guild halls, building a stage, was the equivalent of treating a fire with fuel. They amplified the social contagion rather than isolating it. Every element of their response fed the epidemic. The solution that actually worked, removing dancers to a remote shrine, isolating them from the crowd, providing religious ritual in a quiet environment, looks remarkably like what modern medicine would prescribe for mass psychogenic illness today. The context of suffering in 1518 Strasbourg cannot be separated from the dancing. Famine, plague, syphilis, religious terror about divine punishment. The dancing plague didn't emerge from nowhere. It emerged from a population already pushed far beyond its capacity to cope. Mass psychogenic illness tends to emerge under specific conditions: extreme community stress, a shared belief system that includes a mechanism for collective suffering, and a trigger event that gives others social permission to display the same symptoms. Frau Troffea was the trigger. Whatever caused her to begin dancing, her public performance gave other Strasbourg residents a template. Once enough people joined, the social proof made further spread almost inevitable. The epidemic had a first case, and then it spread like one. The dancing plague raises an uncomfortable question. The dancers' symptoms were real. Their suffering was real. But the cause was, in part, a shared belief that they were cursed, and the cure was, in part, being made to believe otherwise. Modern medicine calls this the Nocebo Effect. The placebo effect is when belief makes you better. The Nocebo Effect is when belief makes you sick. The Strasbourg dancers appear to have experienced collective nocebo operating at population scale. The episode circulated in medical literature for centuries as an unsolved puzzle. Each era reached for its own framework: demonic possession, witchcraft, ergot poisoning, mass hysteria. Each generation diagnosed the dancing plague using the tools of their own moment. The 1518 event is unusually well documented for its time. City council records survive, physician accounts survive, religious commentary survives. This documentation is why historians can say with confidence what happened, and why they can rule out some explanations. The Strasbourg City Council kept detailed records of their response: the guild halls, the musicians, the expenditure, because they treated the crisis seriously. The dancing plague was a public health emergency to them, not a curiosity to be dismissed. The closest modern parallel is a 2011 outbreak in Leroy, New York, where a cluster of teenagers developed sudden involuntary tics and movements. Neurologists eventually diagnosed it as mass psychogenic illness after ruling out environmental and neurological causes. The Leroy case shared key features with Strasbourg: genuine symptoms in people who were not fabricating, media attention and public visibility that made it spread, resolution through removal from the social environment that was amplifying the symptoms. The dancing plague of 1518 ended, but the conditions that produced it did not end. Strasbourg returned to its famine and its plague. What stopped was the symptom. The suffering that generated the symptom continued without pause. The episode endures in cultural memory because it is a story about how communities respond to unbearable stress. The dancing was not madness. It was a language for suffering that the community had no other way to express. The body said what words could not. The institutional response endures too. A community under crisis consulted its best experts, followed their advice in complete good faith, and made everything catastrophically worse. That failure, well-meaning, expert-endorsed, and wrong, is not a story unique to 1518. In July 1518, a woman danced in Strasbourg. 400 people joined her. Some died. The city hired musicians and built a stage. A saint's shrine stopped it. Nobody fully understood what had happened. 500 years later, we have better frameworks. We are not certain we have better answers.